The great doors of the royal palace opened with a sound like thunder. Princess Zara of the Krillian Empire walked through them after being away for 3 full cycles. Her blue skin gleamed under the crystal lights, and her silver hair flowed behind her like liquid metal. The royal court had gathered to welcome her home, but something was wrong. Walking beside the princess was a stranger. He looked nothing like the proud Krillian nobles who filled the grand hall. His skin was a strange pink color, and brown hair covered his head. He wore simple clothes instead of the rich robes expected in the royal court. Most shocking of all, he walked as an equal beside Princess Zara, not behind her like a servant. Queen Mother Vera sat on the crystal throne, her 4 eyes studying this unexpected visitor. She ruled 7 star systems with wisdom and strength. Nothing happened in her empire without her knowledge. Yet she had never seen this creature before. The court buzzed with whispers. The nobles clicked their tongues in the traditional sign of confusion. Some younger Krillians stared openly at the stranger's odd appearance. His eyes had only 2 colors instead of the proper 4. His ears were round instead of pointed. Most disturbing, he had hair growing on his face. My daughter Queen Vera spoke in the formal voice she used for court business. You returned to us at last. We trust your diplomatic mission to the outer worlds was successful. Princess Zara bowed her head with respect. Yes, Mother. I bring news of new trade agreements and peaceful relations with 3 more systems. Excellent. The queen's gaze moved to the stranger. And who is this person you have brought into our sacred court? The question hung in the air like a blade. Every noble in the hall stopped talking. Even the royal guards turned their heads to listen. The stranger himself seemed calm. Strange 2-color eyes looking around the magnificent hall with quiet interest. Princess. Zara straightened her shoulders. When she spoke, her voice carried clearly through the vast chamber. Mother, honored nobles of the court, I present Tom of Earth. He is the man I married. The silence that followed was deeper than the space between stars. Then the court exploded into chaos. Impossible, shouted Lord Commander Vex, his metals jangling as he stepped forward. The princess cannot marry without royal permission. What manner of creature is this? Demanded High Advisor Krell. I have never seen its like. Earth, whispered Lady Nala to her companion. Is that not one of the primitive worlds in the Outer Rim? Queen Vera raised one hand, and silence fell like a curtain. Her 4 eyes fixed on the stranger called Tom. You claim to be married to my daughter? Tom stepped forward slightly. His voice was steady and respectful. Your Majesty, I am honored to meet you. Yes, Princess Zara and I were married according to the customs of both our peoples. Both your peoples? The queen's voice rose with incredulity. What people are you from, strange one? I am human, your Majesty. From the planet called Earth, new wave of whispers swept through the court. Many nobles had heard of humans, but only as stories of primitive beings who had barely learned to travel between stars. They were said to be violent and unpredictable, living short lives on a small world that nobody considered important. Humans, repeated High Advisor Krell with obvious disgust. Barely evolved creatures who cannot even change their skin color with emotion. They live like animals, fighting wars over resources instead of trading peacefully. Tom's expression did not change, but Princess Zara stepped closer to him. The humans I met are nothing like the stories we tell. Tom saved my life when pirates attacked my ship near Earth's space. He is brave, intelligent, and honorable. One act of courage does not make someone worthy of royal marriage, declared Lord Commander Vex. Clearly been deceived by this alien's primitive tricks. Watch your words. Princess Zara's voice carried a warning edge. Tom is now part of this family. Any insult to him is an insult to me. Queen Vera studied Tom with the practiced eye of a ruler who had governed vast territories for over 2 centuries. She saw how he stood without fear, despite being surrounded by beings who could crush him. She noticed how his strange eyes met her gaze without challenge, but also without submission. Most interesting, she observed how her daughter positioned herself as his protector and equal. Tell me, human Tom, the queen said slowly, what do you know of our laws and customs? I know that family bonds are sacred to your people, your Majesty. I know that honor matters more than wealth or power. I know that the Krillian Empire values wisdom and justice above all things. And do you think you possess these qualities? Tom considered this carefully before answering. I try to learn something new every day. I try to treat others fairly. I try to keep my promises. Beyond that, I can only say that Princess Zara found me worthy of her trust.
Yes. Several nobles made dismissive sounds, but Queen Vera held up her hand again.
She had ruled long enough to recognize sincerity when she heard it. This human spoke simply, but without false humility or boasting. Very well, she announced to the court. This matter requires proper consideration. Guards, prepare chambers for our guest. Tomorrow, we shall test whether this human truly understands what it means to be part of the royal family. As Tom was led away, the court erupted into heated discussions about this unprecedented situation. Princess Zara remained beside her mother's throne, her expression determined. The human had survived his first encounter with Krillian nobility, but the real test was just beginning. The morning sun cast long shadows through the crystal windows of the royal testing chamber. Queen Vera sat on a smaller throne, surrounded by her most trusted advisors. Today would determine if the human Tom was truly worthy of Princess Zara, or if he was just another primitive creature pretending to understand civilized ways. The trials begin now, announced High Advisor Krell, his 4 eyes gleaming with anticipation. No outsider has ever passed all 3 tests. This human will learn his place soon enough. Tom entered the chamber, wearing simple clothes provided by the palace staff. Princess Zara wanted to stand beside him, but royal law demanded that he face the trials alone. She could only watch from the observation gallery, her hands pressed against the crystal barrier. Human Tom, Queen Vera spoke formally. For 3,000 years, these tests have determined who may join the royal bloodline. Many have tried. Few have succeeded. Are you prepared? Tom bowed respectfully. I am ready, Your Majesty. Lord Commander Vex stepped forward carrying a large crystal tablet covered in glowing symbols. The first test is the puzzle of ancient logic. Our greatest scholars created this mathematical problem 500 years ago. No one has solved it completely. You have 1 hour. The tablet was placed on a metal stand before Tom. The symbols shifted and moved across its surface like living things. Complex equations floated in the air above it, connected by lines of pure energy. Even looking at it made several younger nobles feel dizzy. Tom studied the puzzle quietly for several minutes. The court waited, expecting him to give up quickly, like most challengers did. Instead, he began touching symbols and patterns that seemed random to the watching Krillians. What is he doing? Whispered Lady Nala. Those symbols cannot be moved in that order. He lacks the mathematical training to understand the complexity, replied High Advisor Krell with satisfaction. Soon he will admit defeat. But Tom continued working. Instead of following the traditional logical pathways that Krillian minds naturally used, he approached the problem from angles that seemed impossible. Where Krillian scholars used pure computational power, Tom used something different. He looked for patterns that felt right rather than patterns that calculated correctly. Wait, said Royal Scholar Dex, leaning forward in his chair. Look at what he has done to the central matrix. The floating equations had begun connecting in ways none of them had seen before. Tom was not solving the puzzle the way it was designed to be solved. He was finding shortcuts through problems that Krillian logic said could not exist. After 47 minutes, Tom stepped back from the tablet. I believe this is the solution, he said simply. The crystal tablet flashed bright blue, then displayed a simple numerical sequence. The watching court gasped in shock. 5 centuries of Krillian scholarship had produced dozens of partial solutions, each requiring massive computational resources. Tom's answer was elegant in its simplicity. Impossible, breathed Royal Scholar Dex. The mathematics are perfect, but how did you know to bypass the tertiary equations entirely? Tom shrugged. They seemed like extra steps that made the problem harder than it needed to be. Sometimes the simplest path is the best path. Queen Vera's expression remained neutral, but her inner eyes had begun glowing slightly. This was a sign of deep interest that few court members ever witnessed. The second test, announced Lord Commander Vex, clearly annoyed by Tom's success. Diplomatic negotiation with hostile representatives. 3 figures entered the chamber wearing the distinctive gray robes of the Vex Trading Confederation. Vex traders were known throughout the galaxy for their aggressive business practices and impossible demands. They had broken more treaties than any other species, always finding new ways to gain advantage over their partners. Human, the lead Vex trader spoke in a harsh voice. We hear you seek to join this royal family. We demand compensation for future trade disruptions your presence will cause. Pay us 50,000 royal credits now, or we will end all commerce with this empire. This was the traditional Vex opening move. They made outrageous demands and forced their opponents to either pay or start a costly trade war. Krillian diplomats usually responded with counter-threats and complex political maneuvering that could last for days. Tom listened carefully to their demands, then asked, "What trade disruptions are you concerned about?" The Vex traders exchanged surprised looks. No one had ever asked them to explain their threats before. Your human ways will corrupt proper business practices, replied the lead trader after a moment of confusion. I see Tom nodded thoughtfully. What if we created a new trade category specifically for human-influenced goods? You could charge premium prices for exotic items from Earth, and customers would know exactly what they were buying. Everyone profits more than before. The Vex traders fell silent. Their entire strategy depended on creating conflict and forcing others to choose between expensive concessions and costly trade wars. Tom had suggested something they had never encountered before, a solution where everyone genuinely benefited. You would share profits from your world's resources, asked the second trader suspiciously. Trade should help everyone involved, Tom replied. Otherwise, why would anyone want to continue trading? After 20 minutes of discussion, the Vex traders agreed to a partnership deal that gave them exclusive rights to distribute human goods throughout their territory. They left the chamber looking genuinely pleased, instead of smugly victorious. The court sat in stunned silence. No one had ever seen Vex traders agree to anything without threats, bribes, or political pressure. The final test will wait until tomorrow, Queen Vera announced, rising from her throne. Today has provided much to consider. As the court dispersed, Princess Zara hurried to Tom's side. How did you do that? The Vex have been causing trade problems for decades. Tom smiled gently. I just listened to what they really wanted instead of what they said they wanted. People usually have good reasons for their actions, even when those actions seem unreasonable. Queen Vera overheard this exchange as she passed by. The human's words reminded her of something her own mother had taught her long ago. True wisdom comes from understanding others, not defeating them. Perhaps this strange human understood more about leadership than anyone had expected. The royal communication chamber buzzed with urgent activity as Queen Vera received the most frightening news of her reign. Emergency signals flashed red across every crystal screen, and the voices of distant administrators carried panic through the quantum communication links. Your Majesty, reported communications officer Zell, normally calm voice trembling. We have received a distress call from Mining Colony 7. Their primary atmosphere processor has suffered complete system failure. Queen Vera felt her blood turn cold. Mining Colony 7 housed over 4 million workers who extracted the rare minerals that powered her entire empire. Without a functioning atmosphere processor, they would all suffocate within 3 days. What caused the failure? Demanded High. Advisor Krell, pushing past other court officials to reach the communication console. Unknown, sir, replied the colony administrator's voice through the speakers. The main reactor core overheated and caused cascade failures throughout the entire atmospheric system. We have emergency reserves, but they will only last until tomorrow evening. Princess Zara entered the chamber with Tom beside her, having heard the emergency alerts throughout the palace. Mother, what has happened? Mining Colony 7 is dying, Queen Vera said simply. 4 million people will run out of breathable air in less than 2 days. Tom stepped closer to the communication console, studying the technical readouts displayed on the screens. The data showed complex diagrams of the colony's life support systems, all marked with red failure indicators. What about repair teams? Princess Zara asked. Lord Commander Vex shook his head grimly. Our fastest ships need 18 hours to reach the colony. Even then, Chief Engineer Brock estimates repairs will take at least 2 weeks. We do not have enough transport ships to evacuate even half the population in time. Your Majesty, came the desperate voice of Colony Administrator Ness through the speakers. We are requesting immediate evacuation assistance for essential personnel and children. The rest of us will remain at our posts to maintain mining operations as long as possible. The Queen closed her 4 eyes in anguish. These brave workers were choosing to die so their families might live and the Empire could continue functioning. It was the highest form of honor, but it broke her heart. Send every available transport ship immediately, she commanded. Evacuate as many as possible. Tom continued studying the technical displays, his human eyes moving across information that would have taken Krillian engineers hours to fully understand. After several minutes, he spoke quietly. Your Majesty? What if there was another way to fix the atmosphere processor? Chief Engineer Brock, who had just arrived in the chamber, turned toward Tom with obvious annoyance. Human, this is not the time for uninformed suggestions. The atmospheric systems are among the most complex technologies in the galaxy. They require specialized parts and precise calibration that takes trained teams weeks to complete. I understand, Tom replied respectfully. But what if we did not try to repair the original system? What if we built a temporary replacement using materials already available on the colony? Engineer Brock made the clicking sound that indicated extreme skepticism. Impossible. You cannot create life support systems from random parts. The atmospheric balance must be perfect, or everyone dies even faster. Tom moved to one of the technical displays and began tracing patterns across the screen. What if we used the mining equipment's air filtration systems and connected them to the medical facility's oxygen generators? The cargo bay pressurization units could provide backup circulation. Absolutely not, Engineer Brock declared firmly. Those systems are not designed to work together. The pressure differentials alone would cause explosive decompression. It would kill everyone instantly. But what if we regulated the pressure? Using the loading dock airlock systems as buffer chambers, Stum continued, his fingers moving across the display to show new connection patterns. And use the emergency power cells from the transport ships to provide stable energy? Engineer Brock stared at the screen with growing alarm. This design violates every safety protocol we have established over centuries of careful engineering. The connections you suggest should not be physically possible. Should not be, Tom agreed. But could they work temporarily, just long enough for proper repair teams to arrive? The risk is enormous, Engineer Brock protested. If you're improvised, system fails, it could poison the entire colony's air supply instead of just running out. You would turn suffocation into a more horrible death. Queen Vera studied the human who had married her daughter. Tom's strange eyes showed complete focus on the technical problems. But she also saw something else, absolute determination to save people he had never met. Even if your plan could work, the Queen said carefully, no one on the colony has the expertise to attempt such modifications. It would require someone who understands both our technology and your unconventional thinking. Tom straightened and met her gaze directly. Your Majesty, I request permission to travel to Mining Colony 7 immediately. The entire chamber fell silent, except for the continuing emergency alerts from the doomed colony. Absolutely not, Princess Zara said immediately. This is too dangerous. If you are wrong, millions of people will die because of your mistake. If I do nothing, millions of people will die anyway, Tom replied gently. Princess, you once told me that honor means taking responsibility when others cannot. This is something I might be able to help with. The human speaks wisdom, admitted Lord Commander Vex reluctantly. Our conventional solutions have already failed. Perhaps an unconventional approach is worth attempting. Engineer Brock shook his head vigorously. Your Majesty, I cannot support this plan. The human lacks proper training and certification. His proposals go against established safety procedures. But do you have any alternative suggestions? Queen Vera asked. Engineer Brock remained silent, his expression showing the terrible weight of admitting that all his expertise was useless in this situation. Tom bowed formally to the Queen. Your Majesty, I understand the risks, but people are dying while we debate. Give me a fast ship in 12 hours. My plan fails, your evacuation ships will still arrive in time to save whoever they can save. Queen Vera looked at her daughter, who nodded slowly despite her obvious fear for Tom's safety. Very well, the Queen decided. Take the royal courier ship. It is the fastest vessel in our fleet. As Tom hurried from the chamber to prepare for departure, Princess Zara caught his arm. Be careful, she whispered. Come back to me. I will, Tom promised. Then rushed toward the ship that would carry him into the greatest challenge of his life, the fate of 4 million. People now rested on human ingenuity and the desperate hope that impossible solutions might sometimes be the only ones that worked. The royal courier ship dropped out of hyperspace near Mining Colony 7, and Tom immediately understood why the Krillians felt hopeless. The massive mining station floated in the darkness like a dying star, its normally bright lights flickering weakly. Emergency beacons flashed red across its metal surface, calling for help that might never come. Colony 7 Control. This is the royal courier requesting docking permission. Tom spoke into the communication system. Royal courier? Came a surprised voice. We were not expecting any ships for another 16 hours. State your purpose. I am here to attempt emergency repairs to your atmosphere processor. A long pause followed. Then a different voice came through the speakers, older and tired. This is Supervisor Corps. Who are you, and what qualifications do you have for atmospheric engineering? My name is Tom. I am human, and I have an idea that might work. Another pause, longer this time. Human. I have heard stories about your people, but I have never met one. Very well, Doc, at Bay 7. We have nothing to lose at this point. Tom's ship connected to the station with a soft thump. As the airlock opened, he was met by Supervisor Corps, a tall Krillian, whose blue skin had turned pale with exhaustion and worry. Human Tom, Corps said formally, I welcome you to our dying station. We have perhaps 14 hours of breathable air remaining. Our own engineers have concluded that repairs are impossible with available resources. Show me the damaged systems, Tom requested. Corps led him through corridors filled with worried workers. The air already tasted stale, and Tom could hear the labored breathing of people trying not to panic. They passed emergency stations where families hugged each other, in work areas where miners continued their jobs. Even though death approached with every breath, the main engineering section looked like a disaster zone. Twisted metal and melted components lay scattered around a massive machine that had once processed the station's atmosphere. Emergency lighting cast weird shadows on walls covered with diagnostic screens showing nothing but failure readings. Oh. The reactor core overheated here, Corps explained, pointing to a blackened section of machinery. The cascade failure destroyed the primary circulation pumps, the filtration arrays, and the oxygen generation units. Everything is connected, so when one part failed, it destroyed everything else. Tom walked around the wreckage, studying the damage with careful attention. Then he asked, Can you show me the mining equipment storage area? Why? Corps looked confused. I want to see what materials we have to work with. The storage area was enormous, filled with industrial equipment designed to break apart asteroids and process raw minerals. Tom examined the air filtration units used to keep mining tunnels breathable, the powerful pumps that moved liquids through processing plants, and the emergency life support systems built into mining vehicles. These filtration units, Tom said, touching a machine as tall as himself. They clean air contaminated with mining dust, correct? Yes, but they are not designed for atmospheric processing, replied Chief Technician Mel, who had joined their group. They only handle small volumes of air. What if we used 20 of them together? Tom asked, and connected them to the medical facility's oxygen generators. Technician Mel shook her head. The pressure systems are completely incompatible. You cannot connect mining equipment to medical equipment. The interfaces do not match. Tom examined the equipment more closely, then moved to another section where spare parts filled rows of metal shelves. He picked up pressure valves, connection hoses, and electronic control units. What if we built new interfaces? He suggested, for the next hour. Tom worked alongside station technicians to create connections that had never existed before. Where Krillian engineering required precise manufactured parts, Tom used adaptive solutions that combined different technologies in ways their designers never intended. "This cannot work," technician Mel muttered, as they welded together parts from 3 different systems. "The pressure differentials will cause system failures." "Then we add buffer chambers," Tom replied, pointing to cargo containers that could be modified to regulate air pressure, "and use the transport ship power cells to provide stable energy to the whole system." "You are creating a life support system from spare parts and cargo containers?" Supervisor Core observed with amazement. "This goes against every engineering principle I've learned." "Sometimes the best solutions use principles that have not been learned yet," Tom replied. Continuing his work as the hours passed, more workers joined the effort. Tom showed them how to bypass normal safety protocols when survival required taking calculated risks. He demonstrated how to jury-rig electrical connections using components designed for completely different purposes. Most importantly, he helped them think differently about what was possible. "The air quality is improving," announced Medical Officer Reese over the communication system. "Oxygen levels are rising and contamination is decreasing." By the time the official rescue fleet arrived, they found Mining Colony 7 not only alive, but functioning better than before the crisis. Tom's impossible repairs had created an atmospheric system so elegant in its simplicity that the arriving engineers spent hours trying to understand how it worked. "Human, Tom," said rescue team leader Yax as he studied the improvised machinery. "Our computers indicate this system should not be functional, yet atmospheric readings show perfect balance throughout the station." "The parts were never meant to work together," agreed Station Supervisor Core. "But Tom showed us how to make them cooperate instead of compete." "Your approach has given us ideas for improving our own designs," admitted Chief Engineer Brock, who had arrived with the rescue fleet expecting to find catastrophic failure. These modifications could prevent similar failures in other colonies. Tom finished adjusting the final pressure valve and stepped back from his work. "The system should run smoothly until you can install proper replacement parts." As news of the successful rescue spread through the colony, workers who had been preparing to die began celebrating their survival. Children laughed in corridors where silence had reigned hours before. The mining operation resumed with renewed energy. "How can we thank you?" Supervisor Core asked. "Just take care of each other," Tom replied simply. "That is what people do." A royal courier ship departed for home carrying reports of impossible success and the growing legend of a human who solved problems by refusing to accept that they could not be solved. The great doors of the royal palace opened once again as Tom's courier ship landed in the main docking bay. This time, however, the entire court had gathered not in confusion but in eager anticipation. Word of his impossible success at Mining Colony 7 had traveled faster than his ship. Carried by quantum communications that reached every corner of the empire, Queen Vera sat upon her crystal throne, her 4 eyes bright with curiosity and something that might have been respect. The same nobles who had whispered dismissively about the primitive human now stood in respectful silence, waiting to hear the full account of what had transpired in the distant mining station. Tom entered the throne room beside Princess Zara, who had insisted on meeting his ship personally. His simple clothes were stained with oil and metal dust from his emergency repairs, and his human hands showed cuts from working with unfamiliar Krillian tools. Yet he walked with the same quiet confidence he had shown during his first appearance at court. "Human Tom," Queen Vera spoke in the formal voice reserved for matters of great importance. "You return to us as the savior of 4 million souls. Colony 7 reports that your ingenious repairs have not only saved their lives, but improved their atmospheric systems beyond original specifications." "Your Majesty," Tom replied with a respectful bow, "I simply used the materials and knowledge available to solve an urgent problem. The real heroes are the colony workers who trusted an untested solution and worked tirelessly to make it function." High Advisor Krell stepped forward. His expression completely changed from the skepticism he had shown just days before. "The engineering reports describe modifications that our most advanced scholars are calling revolutionary. How did you conceive solutions that our experts considered impossible?" Tom considered the question carefully before answering. Sometimes when you are not trained in the traditional way of doing something, you can see possibilities that training might overlook. I looked at what needed to be accomplished rather than what the textbook said should be accomplished. Your repairs have given us new approaches to atmospheric engineering, added Chief Engineer Brock, who had rushed back from the colony to study Tom's innovations. We are already implementing similar modifications at 3 other mining stations. Your unconventional methods may prevent future disasters throughout the Empire. Queen Vera nodded slowly. This confirms what I have observed during your trials. Human, Tom, you possess a quality that our civilization has perhaps grown too sophisticated to maintain. The ability to see simple solutions to complex problems. Your Majesty is too kind, Tom replied humbly. Every species has strengths that others can learn from. Humans are good at improvising and adapting, but Krillians are far superior at planning and organization. Together, we can accomplish more than either could alone. Princess Zara moved closer to Tom, her pride in her husband evident to every observer. Mother, I told you that Tom was worthy of our family. He has proven that worth by risking his life to save people he had never met. Indeed he has, the Queen agreed. But worthiness in marriage is only the beginning. Tom, your success at Colony 7 and your performance during the trials have shown abilities that could benefit our entire empire. I formally offer you the position of Special Advisor for Alternative Solutions. The court murmured with approval at this unexpected honor. The position of Royal Advisor was rarely offered to outsiders, and never before to someone from a species the Empire had previously considered primitive.
Your Majesty,
Tom said after a moment of surprised silence, I am deeply honored by your offer. However, I would request that this position include opportunities for other humans to contribute their perspectives as well. My people have many individuals with different talents and insights. Lord Commander Vex, who had been one of Tom's harshest critics, now nodded with genuine respect. The human suggests expanding the benefits beyond himself. This shows wisdom and selflessness worthy of royal service. An excellent proposal, Queen Vera agreed. We shall establish formal diplomatic relations with Earth and create exchange programs that allow both our peoples to learn from each other. Royal Scholar Dex stepped forward with obvious excitement. Your Majesty, the possibilities for technological and scientific advancement through such cooperation could be extraordinary. Human intuitive problem-solving, combined with Krillian systematic analysis, might unlock discoveries neither could achieve alone. The mining colony's success has already demonstrated this potential, added Engineer Brock. Tom's repairs work because they combine human creativity with Krillian precision. We should study this approach extensively. Tom listened to these discussions with growing amazement. What had begun as a simple rescue mission was now becoming the foundation for unprecedented cooperation between 2 very different civilizations. I accept your offer, Your Majesty, Tom said formally, with the understanding that my primary loyalty will always be to Princess Zara and to the welfare of both our peoples. Queen Vera rose from her throne, an action that brought the entire court to respectful attention. Then let it be recorded in the royal chronicles that Tom of Earth, husband to Princess Zara, has this day been appointed Special Advisor for Alternative Solutions, with full authority to develop cooperative programs between the Krillian Empire and humanity. As the court erupted in ceremonial applause, Princess Zara took Tom's hand. When I first brought you here, many doubted whether a human could understand our ways. Now they are eager to learn human ways. People usually fear what they do not understand, Tom replied quietly. Once they understand, fear often becomes curiosity, and curiosity becomes cooperation. Queen Vera overheard this exchange and smiled with the satisfaction of a ruler who had made a decision that would strengthen her empire for generations to come. The strange human who had seemed so out of place was now exactly where he belonged, building bridges between worlds that had never imagined they had anything to learn from each other. The future had become brighter, because someone had dared to see possibilities where others saw only problems.